Thomas. I see you dropped by for a little afternoon delight.
Well, Betsy, it's that gluten-free, dairy-free cheesecake and the chai tea with almond milk. I mean, really, how can anyone, a soy boy, really turn that down?
I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about decoding Trump tweets.
Oh, that's always a delight. And the reason it's a delight is because they're just so chock full of power and news. And, in fact, the best news that we've heard since 1776.
Okay, so let's get started, folks. This is for August 25th, 2018. Michael Cohen's attorney clarified the record, saying his client does not know if President Trump knew about the Trump Tower meeting, out of which came nothing. The answer is that I did not know about the meeting. Just another phony story by the fake news media.
Now, first off, Lanny Davis, his corrupt lawyer, why is he saying all these details? Because if...
Now, wait a minute. When people have asked that when we use all these pronouns that we can talk about, so whose attorney is he? Cohen's or Trump's?
Cohen's attorney.
Okay, well, I know you know that, but not everybody can remember all these players, so I'm so sorry, but...
I see.
Okay.
Lanny Davis, the corrupt lawyer who used to work for Hillary Clinton, who's representing Michael Cohen, is as dirty as it gets, and on the news he's stating all the details of the case. In other words, he has spoiled every venue because he's on mainstream media. Therefore, the plea deal is exactly as I said it was. It is not going to be an indictment. It is not an indictment. It is a plea deal where he admitted his guilt. But the only reason he admitted the guilt to 8 charges is because he's got probably 80,000 charges because he's one of the most corrupt people in New York City. That's why Trump used him to deal with the other sharks. And then the whole point of the thing is he did a plea deal so he can get no time. He will receive no punishment. Mark my words. Why? Because he came out and said that he was guilty for election fraud. No, he is not. And he says that Trump told him to do it, so Trump is guilty. No, Trump is not. And then we hear, 2,000 times in 8 hours, the word impeachment, the I word, impeachment. No. They didn't impeach Obama for doing 10,000 times worse. They charged him $375,000 for a regulation violation. Hillary Clinton stole $84 million in the Democratic National Committee by stealing it from states and pumping it into her Hillary Victory Fund, and nothing happened. They're still out on that one. Again, it's like the Clinton Foundation, it's like the Clinton emails. All those investigations just go out and they never come back. So, Trump Tower, let's get off on this, okay? First off, Trump Tower was set up by Victoria Nuland with the help of John McCain, who we need proof of life on.
Right. They say that he is going to be declining his cancer treatment, but folks, that doesn't mean he's alive. Where's his pulse? Is he alive?
The only crimes committed with Trump Tower are the following. John McCain gave the name of Russians to help in the frame-up of the Trump team. Victoria Nuland brought in illegally Natalia Veselnitskaya under the auspices of coming to hear a Magnitsky Act. Glenn Simpson met with Natalia, a Russian spy, both before and after that meeting. James Comey sent his Russian spies in, who helped set up the meeting, Felix Sater and Sergei Milian. Loretta Lynch and John Kerry, remember, they're hand in glove. Whenever you say one, you have to say the other. And when you say John Kerry, you have to remember the 2,500 Iranian spies he let in as part of his payoff. And they are now hacking us. And they've already been caught, a bunch of them. So John Kerry was in on that. Don't forget that. And then you got John Brennan, who set it up with Robert Hannigan through the General Communications headquarters of Britain so that they could use Five Eyes as an excuse for spying on an election. Okay? That's who was involved. That's what Trump Tower was. For the Trump team, it was nothing. It was the same old carrot they dangled in front of everybody. The 33,000 missing Hillary emails. Do you understand she did that on purpose? All of her emails are missing. Everything's missing. They never looked at any of the 800,000 that were on Huma's laptop. They didn't look at any of them. The ones that he counted, that he gave a little discourse on, that was a very small fraction. That was like, how many of the texts did we get from Strzok and Page? And don't forget that the server that was supposedly at Trump Towers that was set up by Franklin Foer was another frame-up. So the frame-up at Trump Towers was all over the place. That's the reason Admiral Rogers told him when he went there, get out of here. You are being surveilled. You are being wiretapped. So don't listen to a word that Lanny Davis says or Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen has breached first off, they haven't taken away his law license. Second off, the crimes that he already committed against his own clients, they intercepted those and stole those tapes and then leaked them. Okay? So the people who are now taking the Cohen case, and let's be clear, the Manafort case that was shifted to Virginia is no longer part of the special counsel investigation per se in terms of collusion, the supposed conspiracy for collusion with Russia, a complete illegal, non-criminal charge. Now they want to say that Cohen's admission of guilt to pay off the horrors that were given $1 million, it was given $1 million was given to David Brock and Media Matters, and he literally put out an ad, and he said any whores that wish to come and claim $375,000 per claim against Trump that you had sex with him while he was married, come on. At first there were 6 of them, and then 5 backed off, and then 1 was left, that's Stormy, and then another one joined. That's what's going on? That has nothing to do with the election. That was Trump's personal money through his lawyer. Billionaires have to do this all the time, and it will have no bearing whatsoever on anything. It will not lead to impeachment, cannot lead to impeachment. There was no crime. There were no lies. And to this point, even what she says, his accusations, which are wrapped up in this whole Michael Cohen deal, which now has stretched over to National Enquirer and the head of National Enquirer. So the meeting at Trump Towers was nothing. It was to talk about the Magnitsky Act with a Russian spy that the State Department let into the country just to frame Trump's people. He didn't know anything about it. Every single text message and email was sent out instantaneously as soon as they saw that it was a frame-up. And they were being wiretapped. They all knew that Manafort's phone was tapped. They knew that Felix Sater was corrupt because of his deals with Trump in the past. They knew that at least a number of these were active Russian agents, at least the State Department did, and yet they allowed this meeting. They constructed the meeting as a frame-up. So that's not going to get Trump either. He's already told the truth, and this is just more echo chamber nonsense.
Okay, next one. Jeff Sessions said he wouldn't allow politics to influence him only because he doesn't understand what is happening underneath his command position. Highly conflicted Bob Mueller and his gang of 17 angry Dems are having a field day as real corruption goes untouched. No collusion.
Doesn't understand what is happening underneath his command. That is a direct reference to the Senior Executive Service, that they control everything, and they're telling Jeff Sessions what to do. And they brought out the dirt and showed Jeff Sessions' dirt, and that's the reason he can't do anything. He is, in fact, the Benedict Arnold who was planted there. He can't stop the 10,000 warriors who have been appointed by Obama, 8,500 of them appointed by Obama, to make sure that only the Democratic, George Soros, Open Society, left-wing, democratic, progressive, anarchist party and their agenda of the globalists goes on. Now, when he says real corruption goes untouched, that's all the list that he made of those Democrats and a couple Republicans yesterday in his tweets. So if you don't know the list, that's who he's talking about. And of course, he keeps mentioning no collusion. Why is there an investigation? If they were investigating Trump's team, no collusion on anybody's part with Russia, no conspiracy.
Well, you know who is colluding? The media. They get together and collude, and then they put out the same statement on every channel across the country, and the one last week was the I word.
I say that the stupid special counsel investigation is focused on what was put in as a secondary provision by Rod Rosenstein, with the approval of Jeff Sessions, that they could investigate anything that arose. The things that arose, that would be all of Manafort, all of Gates, that would be Papadopoulos, that would be Flynn, that would be Michael Cohen. In other words, all of them. And then the only other things that came out so far are the 25 mythical Russians who will never, ever, ever be spoken to or can defend themselves because they're mythical. And they've been pushed into a Department of Justice called the Department of Justice National Security Division, where that case will never see the light of day. They took the immunity given to the Podestas, moved them into the Southern District of New York, where the corruption is so thick in the Attorney General's office, and it's just disgusting. That's where all the evil ones come through, is the New York, Eastern, and Southern District. And what is happening there? Podestas get complete immunity while Manafort stays in solitary confinement. So, what is really going on here? This is, as he says, simply a rigged witch hunt that is a coup d'etat. He can't say coup d'etat, and he can't call out the SES because he's dismantling it behind the scenes slowly. So that
he doesn't want to bring attention to that.
He doesn't want to bring attention to it.
Oh, of course, people in our audience are very savvy to that.
And so people say he's not doing anything. He's doing a ton. He's doing a ton, but he's not going to interfere yet. But he keeps threatening he's going to, and in a minute we'll come to that.
So the next one is a quote from Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. Every president deserves an attorney general they have confidence in. I believe every president has a right to their cabinet. These are not lifetime appointments. You serve at the pleasure of the president.
And anyone who doesn't know that doesn't know the first thing about our government. And what is he really saying?
Or maybe they do know about our government, but that what we don't know is that they've got another layer of government there called Senior Executive Services really running the show.
And they're really globalists, and so they see it as their government, and they see it as their America that they are
and they're just humoring us, letting us think that we have a republic and that our votes actually matter. But in a short while, they are, and those are the upcoming midterms.
Well, as he pointed out here, good old Lindsey Graham every once in a while does say something good. And he says, confidence? No confidence, Jeff Sessions. In other words, fire him for insubordination. He just said he wants him fired for insubordination. He says that he needs a cabinet that is certainly not a lifetime appointment who follows the direction of their boss. And so, since Jeff Sessions isn't, he's fired. He serves at the pleasure of the president, the attorney general. Well, it's not pleasurable having a treasonous, seditious person leading a coup d'etat against you. So, Jeff Sessions, you're fired. That's what Lindsey Graham is saying. But remember, Lindsey Graham is trying to trick the president into firing him. President, don't fire anybody. Let them go and expose themselves.
Yes.
After the midterms, everyone will see, you'll have the votes, and then you can focus because they won't be able to keep screaming impeachment from the mouths of those who need to be impeached themselves.
Okay, the next tweet, big story out that the FBI ignored tens of thousands of crooked Hillary emails, many of which are really bad. Also gave false election info. I feel sure that we will soon be getting to the bottom of all of this corruption. At some point, I may have to get involved.
At some point, I may have to get involved. See why he won't get involved? Because what did he just find out? He just found out through Judicial Watch, not through his own Department of Justice, 117,000 people who are not whistleblowing, and every one of them that doesn't whistleblow is guilty. Fire them all. But do it slowly and do it painfully and make sure that they're disgraced so they can't come back.
And you know what we need to do? We need to throw out some October surprises ourselves and start getting on the offense instead of being on the defense. And if Trump were to redact any of this material or release any of it to the public, I would say that those would be some pretty big October surprises.
And remember, it was Andrew McCabe who, when Huma Abedin's computer was found by the New York Police Department in the Anthony Weiner case, they found 700,000 illegal espionage stolen files directly from Hillary Clinton that Hillary didn't know had been sent out, that anybody could hack, and they were on Anthony's computer in a file called insurance. That is called espionage. Did they look at those files? No, they did not. And in a minute, I'm going to have to point out that when they say that they looked at 3,000, no. In the whole time that they looked at them, they wrote a subroutine that could find if there were any duplicates. And so out of the 700,000 or
675,000.
It's stated here. There was actually more like 800,000 on that computer. But the 675 is strictly that had been channeled in an espionage attempt. Not an attempt. It was absolutely true because Hillary Clinton's computer had been hacked by the Russians. As part of all of this, all that is coming out is we know the Russians did hack her computer. We know that they had access to all of those.
So did everybody in the world.
Everyone in the world. It was a paid...
Except for Americans.
All they did was talk to Huma. Huma told them the password, and they could get everything they wanted. Everything Hillary knew, at least, which isn't really that much. But when it comes down to it, this is Comey. He was, as being revealed by some documents that have come forth that through the Congress, but also through Judicial Watch, especially because of the FOIA request and the Hillary email that WikiLeaks revealed. So we knew this back when the WikiLeaks revealed these things, if you read them. So it is now coming out through an official channel, through a FOIA release, through Judicial Watch, and so Trump can talk about it. He couldn't talk about it before. We've been talking about it. He knows about it. And he pointed out recently that it does go back to December of 2015, and that from the beginning, this was an attack on Trump because they feared Trump more than any of the other candidates. Comey was in election meddling because he allowed Hillary to go scot-free. Didn't even do an investigation, didn't even name her in the investigation.
And the thing is, Thomas, we all knew that out here when we heard these reports back then, but we just said, well, this is the corruption that Washington has become. This is the swamp. But they weren't thinking that. They were thinking they were going to get away with it again.
Now, I'm going to point something out here. When he says, at some point I may have to get involved, he will demand the appointment of a special counsel, as has already been demanded by the Senate and by the Congress. And Jeff Sessions did nothing. No special counsel. No, he said Michael Horowitz would roll it into and make it the seventh item on his Inspector General investigation. The first being the politicalization of the DOJ and the FBI, and you got to see what Jeff Sessions did with that report. Absolutely nothing. He turned around and accused Trump of being political, but Trump is saying to him, you don't even know what's going on below you, and you don't even understand that right now Robert Mueller is doing the same thing that Comey did. He is election meddling because these things that he's releasing are released through not only leaks, but they're released through certain angles that make it look like Michael Cohen is saying that Trump is guilty. No, he's not. Okay, so this is election meddling again, all over. And Trump will get involved. There will be a special counsel, but it won't happen until the following. Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation leaks every day. And what does it do? It tries to smear Trump. But at the same time, by Trump not closing them down, which is what they want, Mueller wants to be fired, just like Comey wanted to be fired. Rosenstein and Sessions both want to be fired.
Well, you have to explain why.
It's a setup. It's a setup for impeachment. So they are doing the worst that they could possibly do to make him mad so that he acts rashly and fires them, even though it wouldn't be rashly because people are calling for it.
But they would make sure, their fake media would make sure that it was perceived by the general public that it was rash.
So the leaks coming out of the Mueller investigation are equivalent to the truth coming out through Trump tweets, through the work of Nunes, Jim Jordan, Grassley,
folks
Gates,
at Judicial
Watch, all the people that are bringing forth the truth. Those are like leaks. So by the time the special counsel is appointed, it can do its secret work, but all of America will know who they're going after, what they're going after, because they will have already seen their crimes. They will see the evidence, the indictable evidence, which we provided over and over and over for anyone who wants to see it. So that's what's going on. He's doing a reverse preparation, or a preparation for a reverse special counsel, where they actually do keep it quiet until they convict the people.
Well, the next two tweets really are about what you're talking about. The FBI looked at less than 1% of Crooked Hillary's emails. The FBI only looked at 3,000 of 675,000 Crooked Hillary Clinton emails. They purposely didn't look at the disasters. This news is just out.
Well, yes, and these are, again, the things that I was just talking about before, but I'll add a few more things to it. First off, all those people I mentioned lied about this. They have now perjured themselves by the evidence that's been brought forth. It's obvious they perjured themselves. They need to be asked one more time about which version they want to stick by, and then they need to, of course, then meet the justice of 5 years for every single time they lied. For Comey, that's literally hundreds. For Clapper, for Brennan, it's literally hundreds of times. But McCabe, hundreds of times in public. Strzok, during his every single word that came out of his mouth was a lie. So I like to call that obstruction.
Yes,
because
we've seen that around the internet lately.
You have?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I just made that up.
No.
I'm not that clever.
Okay, no, but you're a smart guy. But
okay. Horowitz lied, Comey lied, Lynch and Kerry lied, and they knew it because Christopher Wray has already told us under testimony that he has a jump drive with the 33,000 missing Hillary emails, and he has 6 CDs with the 33,000 emails on them. So he has them in his office. He has Huma's laptop in his office. It hasn't been smashed. And on it are the messages that she sent to her laptop at her house. They have Cheryl Mills' laptop. They have Hillary's blackberries, strawberries? Blackberries. And on those blackberries, it is proven that she was being hacked every time she was overseas. That's a fact. That's already been brought out.
Oh, she is so bad. She has so much crime. I mean, where do you start? Just give me one big juicy one and send her to the gallows.
Well, these are security violations that literally send you to prison. And I don't know why.
Thomas, I mean, we're beyond prison for these people. These are traitors to the country. This is treason.
This is espionage of the worst type. So it is beyond treason. Hillary Clinton not only violated the Emolument Act literally hundreds of times and got millions of dollars, some say billions. Jonathan Weiner says $20 billion has flowed into the many, many, many different Clinton foundations, which they started even before he was president. And so that's the reason they're able to hide this. That's the reason they had to go down to Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, to investigate the Clinton Foundation. Why? Because it started off when she was at Rose Law Firm. I mean, these corrupt people, before he even got in politics, set up foundations to hide money that was paid to them by the Chinese. The Chinese pumped money into Arkansas. And why do you think Walmart, which Sam Walton, who I knew personally, I used to go see him down at both of his stores in Arkansas. And why did he get infinite money through the Clintons? And then Walmart became the biggest corporation in America. Clinton sat on the board being paid for it. And then we sold out through the Clintons, China, through the World Trade Organization, and we basically made them our manufacturing branch of America, and we sold out our manufacturing. And Trump is trying to get that back. That's the Clintons, okay?
Well, it's also Henry Kissinger.
Oh, of course.
Before the Clintons, he was talking about China, and they're our friends.
And presidents in the past, all the way back to Jimmy Carter, don't even have an opinion about world affairs. They simply echo Henry Kissinger, one of the most evil men of our times. He's wanted in many countries for his crimes, and just like George Soros, wanted in many countries, but you never hear that on mainstream media, do you? You still hear that there are heroes and that we should listen to what George Soros has, and we should accept his $18 billion, which he actually skimmed tax-free off of our own New York stock exchange through his quantum hedge fund and so on and so forth.
Okay, final tweet. Our relationship with Mexico is getting closer by the hour. Some really good people within both the new and old government, and all working closely together. A big trade agreement with Mexico could be happening soon.
Yes, by what he means by getting closer, that means the lips of the new president are getting closer to Trump's foot, because he's going to have to kiss the foot that he condemned to get elected. And then, once this happens, oh my, this is only the beginning. Then that president, once he actually gets a deal, and NAFTA's over, it's been over for a long, long time. Y'all just didn't, if you didn't pay attention and notice that, I want to tell you. It's only bilateral agreements anymore that Trump is doing, and it's been over a long time, and the war on the border and the drug war and the drug cartels are the next issue. So here's what they're saying to the president of Mexico and his trade representatives. We are going to go to zero tariffs, and we are going to become the dominant force, not you. And if you don't, we're simply going to declare war on you because you have declared war on America on our southern border because your wars come across and kill our people every day. You've sent in probably, I would estimate, between 10 to 20 million people.
Oh, goodness. So then the Mexican government could actually be more responsive to border control than the Democrats in Congress.
The zero tariffs will give Trump exactly what he said. Mexico will pay for the border wall. It's just that Congress is so stupid that the money that he saved, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, even in this year's budget, they won't give to him to spend on the wall because that's a political issue, you see. And they don't care about humans. They care about being reelected.
Well,
and
they don't care about
lobbyists.
American citizens who are being killed and harmed.
And they don't care about, let's remember, 75 to 85% of every woman who comes across that southern border has been raped. Why would anybody say open borders is good? Open borders creates human trafficking. So when he says crime, Trump is talking about the worst of crimes, not just the fact that, let's remember, the pharmaceutical companies in China are making fentanyl that can kill you with one pill. And we pick it up at the border by the thousands of pounds. One of the interceptions that they had of drugs coming across with fentanyl and some other opiates, which are pharmaceutical drugs going onto the streets that are much more powerful than the ones even being made by our pharmaceutical companies, they're being made in China. China is in a war against us. They're killing people. 70,000 people.
Talk about a Trojan horse.
60,000 people last year alone. Over 60,000 people died of overdoses of those opiates, both on the street and directly from our own pharmaceutical companies.
But if you think about that, they don't even have to bring soldiers over or guns. They just send over pills, and Americans take them and they kill themselves.
And for a while, it was pregnant Chinese girls coming across the border in such huge numbers that they had to put the signs in Chinese as well. Yes. And they gave emergency call phones. Believe this or not, go back. Obama provided emergency call phones for people who were being human trafficked through our southern border, and right above the phone were instructions in Chinese. I'm not making this up. It is absurd what Obama did. There was no America under Obama and Hillary. There was only their own aggrandizement.
Now, Thomas, we're finished with the tweets, but I want to get a quick update on what you and Michael McKibben are doing. You're in the research minds, pulling out all kinds of stuff on the history of the Holy Lance of Antioch. Care to share a few words about that?
Well, it's the biggest study that we've taken on. As you know, the conclave is well noted for doing research and vetting things.
Y'all be educated, right?
We all be educated.
Y'all be educated, and you love to research.
We got so many degrees, we mail them out to other people who need them. And so we were studying this spear. Well, we had all studied, literally, every one of us knew very well about the spear of Longinus, the spear of destiny, because of the book, The Spear of Destiny, which, by the way, was written by Trevor Ravenscroft, who was one of the 3 students of Walter Johannes Stein. The other 2 students were my teachers, Werner Glass and Rene Carrito. I forgot to say that last time we talked. So I never knew Trevor Ravenscroft because he was a madman. He was insane. He had shell shock. He'd been locked up and by his own admission had been captured again and again and again and escaped during World War II. And he was a crazy man. And he was very poor, so he wrote a detective novel, basically, a Dan Brown version of the Holy Grail with a complete twist towards what we'd call the black magic Klingsor side, focusing on the German kings, especially, and the Habsburg lineage that still has what is called the Spear of Maurice, or the Spear of Destiny, in the imperial regalia there in Vienna. But what we're focused on is the real spear that probably has the clearest, or at least certainly the most likely provenance, going back to being the alleged spear of Longinus that stabbed the side of Christ. So we have tracked it down as we can through history, but now we're going into some type of subliminal history that we didn't even know existed.
Well, I think that's the most exciting part of your research. Can you give us a hint of what you're finding?
Well, we trace it, from 1098 when it was dug up in Antioch, and it was used as a spear to rally around to conquer Acre and Tripoli and then Jerusalem. And so the man who it was given to after the vision came to Peter Bartholomew, it was given to Raymond IV, and Raymond conquered Jerusalem with it. But he didn't become king of Jerusalem. Godfrey of Bouillon did. And then after that, at the Battle of Ascalon, right outside of Jerusalem, supposedly the spear was lost after that. Well, we don't believe it was lost. We now believe that it was given, perhaps. This is the best version we have so far, and we are getting very close to being able to prove this. It seems as if his wife, Elvira of Castile, who had his child Alfonso Jordan, who was 2 years old at the time that they conquered Jerusalem, went back to their home in Toulouse, where, of course, Raymond IV was the Count of Toulouse. And she was the queen herself of Castile in a long line of queens who were very, very powerful, starting with Urraca of Castile and Leon.
Okay, wait a minute. Hold it, thought, because by now we may have lost a lot of our audience who just came in to hear Trump tweets. And the reason that we find this fascinating, folks, is because being on the internet, you find so many things. And, well over a year ago, we were following the Cicada 3301 trail. And we got very interested in what the prize was, which was alleged the Spear of Destiny. And so we've been following that. And then it's taken some personal turns that weren't expected. But the Spear of Destiny, it is said that the person who holds that spear, for good or evil, rules the destiny of the world. Is that an old proverb?
And then the Spear of Destiny says that every single emperor who held it was in power and ruled his world, or her world,
right.
I should point out, until it dropped from their hands or their control, and then they lost their power.
Why that's so exciting is, now I'm going to switch over to football. I went to Florida State, and I'm a huge Seminole fan, and there is nothing more exciting when the football game starts, when Sammy Seminole comes out with a spear and a spire. I don't know if they still do that anymore, but it was so exciting because the spear just marks the ground and says, we're going to win this game. And so the Spear of Destiny took a interest to me because I said, that's what we need, Patriots. We need our own spear of victory that we can throw on the ground and say, we're going to get on the offense now and we're going to win this game.
Well, obviously, Vienna doesn't control the world. But does Angela Merkel, the leader of Germany, does George Soros, in a way, since he controls the European Union, then he controls Vienna? Does George Soros control the world through the Spear of Destiny? There's a long line of basically the male-dominated, warrior-oriented leader that was obsessed with this spear because it stabbed the side of Christ. But in many cases, it's because they wanted the evil that they thought might have been in it. But we have found the counterpoint to that, which is the Spear of Antioch, which was used in a number of battles in the First Crusade for exactly what the crusade was, which was to return Jerusalem to Christians. So it did its job and then it disappeared. It looks as if it might have gone into this lineage of Urraca and Matilda and Melucinda and Elvira. It was actually Elvira of Castile that we believe took the spear back. But why did they have this thing called, those women were protected. They were called infantata in many cases, or infantado. So they could hold the relics that were trying to be stolen by other churches in the Catholic Church and hide them in their abbeys, in their convents, not in the monasteries or in the churches, even though those women were queens and they controlled huge parcels of Leon and Castile and Aragon. Look at Eleanor of Aquitaine. She was the queen of France and Britain. And she was part of leading the Second Crusade. And so she was friends with Raymond IV and Alfonso. So the very women who were part of the courts of love and chivalry and the Grail quests and every Grail quest all come back to this area called the Occitania or Occitan, or where Languedoc was spoken, at the bottom of France, the top of Spain, and then all of the Grail mysteries are right there, the blood relic Grail mysteries. So what we seem to have found is that there really is a spear that is the counterpoint to perhaps the warlord spear of Maurice, the one I was just describing, and the Spear of Antioch, which seems to have disappeared. perhaps until now, because of the geniuses of Cicada 3301 that seem to have perhaps found it. And we were trying to prove that.
It's very exciting. And it also shows that women are involved in this as well. And that's a part of history that's always suppressed, the power of the female.
Helena, Theodora, Agnes, all of them, they were the ones telling their leaders, Constantine and Justinian, and what to do. They were the ones who got the relics. They were the ones who created sacramentalism. Theodora was the one who made sure that liturgies with music and icons and the whole pageantry that came along with these relics. And so what we have here is the romance of the blood relics, is the quest of the Grail. And we think we have stumbled on something that has been overlooked by many people who've studied the Grail.
Well, thank you so much, Thomas. And next time we'll get back to business and look at these Trump tweets, okay?